Jane was everything a parent could wish for in a child. From a very young age, she had been different, calm, understanding, wise beyond her years. Her parents often called her their answered prayer. Her presence alone brought peace into the home. Whenever things got tough financially, Jane was the one child who didn't complain. Instead, she offered to help. She would say, "Daddy, Mommy, I understand. I'll manage." Unlike her younger siblings, who often lazed around and found excuses to dodge responsibility, Jane was the one who got up early to sweep, fetch water, and ensure everything in the house was in order. Her mother would always say, "When Jane is around, I can rest." Her siblings didn't like that. She was always the example. Anytime they did something wrong, their parents would say, "Can't you be more like Jane?" Jane didn't mind. She was never one to seek praise. She just wanted to see her parents happy. In church, she was well known, a committed choir member with a heavenly voice that left people teary-eyed during worship. "That girl has the voice of an angel," the elders would say. She never missed choir practice, never came late to service, and carried herself with grace of someone far beyond her age. At school, the prestigious university she attended, through pure academic merit, she remained focused. No parties, no gossip, no distraction. In fact, some classmates called her Mommy G.O. behind her back because she was too churchy, too disciplined, and too perfect. But even while they mocked her, many admired her in secret. Some of her friends' parents would often say, "See Jane, look how she dresses. See how focused she is. Why can't you be like her?" Those comments, though meant to correct their children, only build silent resentment towards Jane. She did not know it, but many of her peers, including her own roommate, were jealous of her. She had 4 roommates. One of them was friendly with her, mostly because she wanted help with reading an assignment. The other 3 kept their distance. 2 were openly hostile, but Jane stayed in her lane. She was dared to learn. During the first semester of her first year, everything seemed to go smoothly. Then came the ASU strike, a 4-month break that left most students idle and wasting time. But not Jane. She saw it as an opportunity. She enrolled in a baking school nearby. People thought it was just a hobby, but Jane had a vision. She noticed that students often celebrated birthdays and needed small chops and cakes. So she told herself, "Why not learn this now and use it to support my parents later?" That was Jane, always thinking ahead. By the time school resumed, Jane was already good at baking. She started making small cupcakes and snacks, selling them to classmates. Her cakes were neat, soft, and tasty, and she never disappointed a customer. Jane the Baker, some people began to call her, teasing her good nature despite her growing side hustle. Jane didn't let anything affect her academics. She maintained perfect scores in her first year, and her name always appeared on the dean's list. Her dream was clear: finish with the first class, get a job immediately, and then fund her master's degree. Marriage, that could wait. She had goals and she was laser focused. But second year brought new tensions. Her classmates had begun to resent her more openly. They saw her as know-it-all. She was always the one who did her assignments early. When a lecturer forgot about a test or project, Jane was often the one to remind them. People rolled their eyes and whispered behind her back, but Jane kept moving. She finished second year strong, despite several attempts by her classmates to frame her in petty troubles. Her focus remained unshaken. Then came third year. That was the year everything changed. Jane's third year began just like the others, focused and determined. She had already set a standard, and she had no plans of dropping it. By now, most of her lecturers knew her by name, and she had become a quiet role model to a few juniors who admire how she balanced academics, business, and church life so effortlessly. First semester of the third year flew by without issues. As usual, she passed all her courses with perfect grades, even topping a few classes. Her roommate didn't congratulate her, but Jane didn't mind. She never expected applause from anyone. Her joy came from knowing her parents would smile proudly when they saw her results. Then came the second semester. Her roommates, especially the two who had never liked her, became unusually warm. They spoke to her more, invited her to hang out with their small group, discussion, and even laughed at her jokes. It was unsettling, but Jane took it as a sign of peace. Maybe they finally decided to like me, she thought. Then, one night, they brought up the cultural events, a yearly tradition among third-year students before final year tension fully set in. It was always held during the second semester, a lively event open to all faculties where students came together to celebrate their culture, food, music, dances, and traditional attire. Jane had never attended, not once. "You're not serious, Jane," one roommate had said playfully. "Since year one till now, you've never been to a cultural day, not even for the food?" "I'm not really interested," Jane replied, laughing softly. "You know I don't like crowd. Come on, it's not a party. It's just food, vibes, and bonding. You keep saying you want to build good network. How will you do that if you're always indoors?" Another chimed in, and that line stuck. Jane had always thought about life beyond school. She dreamed of building a strong network of professionals who could help her grow. What if years later she met a junior in a high position, or he or she didn't feel any connection with her simply because they had never interacted? It began to make sense. "Okay," she finally said. "I'll go, but I'm not staying long." Her roommate screamed in excitement. "Ah, Jane the baker is coming out of her shell." The next few days, everyone was busy with preparations. Jane joined the Yoruba group, her tribe, and helped plan their food display. There was amala and ewedu, ofada rice and sauce, peppered snails, and pounded yam with egusi. Her baking skills came in handy as she offered to make a light dessert. Everyone was impressed with her neatness and organization. The event day came. Colorful, noisy, excitement. The large field was filled with makeshift stands decorated with tribal colors. Music played in the background. The air was heavy with aroma of different traditional meals. Laughter, drums, and excitement. Chatter filled the atmosphere. Jane wore a simple iro and buba with a beautiful hair tie. She looked stunning, like a bride. People complimented her, and for the first time, Jane allowed herself to feel normal. Not just the girl people held to impossible standard, just a girl, young, happy, and free. Her roommates brought drinks to their table. "This one is juice from the east," one of them said. "Very sweet, try it." Jane raised a brow. "Are you sure? You know I don't take alcohol." Relax," her roommate said. "It's not alcohol, just palm juice. Try it." Trusting them, she took a sip. It tasted sweet, refreshing. So she took a little more, then a little more. That was the last thing she remembered clearly. Sometime later, her head spun. The laughter around her became distant echoes. The music blurred, her vision foggy. She felt like the ground was moving beneath her. She tried to speak, but her tongue was heavy. She looked around for her roommate and mumbled, "Please, I want to go. I don't feel okay." The girl smiled and held her. "Let me help you back to your room. You'll be fine." That was it. Jane remembered nothing else. The next morning, she woke up disoriented. Her head throbbed. She found herself wrapped in a single piece of cloth, not the clothes she wore the previous day. Her body felt strange, sore in areas she couldn't understand. She asked her roommate, "What happened? Why am I like this?" "We are too tipsy," The girl said, I just removed your outfit and covered you up. You were throwing up, so I cleaned you up. Jane felt embarrassed. She hated being out of control. Never again, she promised herself. Next time, I'll just say no. After Cultural Day, Jane tried to return to normal. She kept her usual routine. Woke up early, baked small cakes, attended classes, and went to choir rehearsals, but something about her felt off. She was tired all the time, even though she wasn't doing anything different. Her appetite increased strangely. At first, she didn't think much of it. Maybe she was just stressed. But when she realized she had missed her period, a quiet alarm went off inside her. No, this is not possible, she thought. Her period had never been irregular. It always came on time, and now it was barely 2 weeks late. She didn't want to panic. Instead, she waited and hoped it would come. Then one morning, she noticed a light blood stain. It was very little, and it lasted only a few hours. Nothing like her normal flow. Still, she took it as a sign that her period had returned. Even if strange, she mentioned it casually to a nurse at the school clinic while she was there for a minor inquiry. The nurse said it might be hormonal imbalance. It happens sometimes, the woman said, especially with stress and change in diet. That gave Jane a little relief, but not enough, because her body kept changing. She began to feel heavy and tired. Her feet swelled slightly. Her cravings intensified, and she started to gain weight. Her dresses felt tighter around her waist. Some days she would sit in class and felt dizzy. She still didn't believe she was pregnant. The thought was impossible to her, but people started to notice. Her roommates were the first. The same ones who had once mocked her for being too holy now started passing side comments. Jane, you dey chop anyhow oo, Bola said one night. See as your belly don dey round small small. Jane laughed it off. I've just been baking a lot. Maybe it's all the cake I've been eating, she replied, forcing a smile. But deep down she was scared. Things came to her head one weekend when a short semester break, Jane went to visit a friend from church. And while chatting in the sitting room, her friend's mother walked in. Jane, my dear, the woman said warmly, it's been so long. You look well. She pulled Jane into a hug, then paused. But, are you okay? Yes, ma, I'm fine. The woman stepped back, her eyes narrowing slightly. Yes, ma, I'm fine. The woman stepped back, her eyes narrowing slightly. You've added weight. Are you sick? You look a little round in the middle. Jane froze for a second. I know, ma. I've been eating a lot. The woman said nothing for a moment, then called her daughter into the room. Come here, she said, her voice serious. You said Jane hasn't been looking like herself lately. The girl nodded. Mommy, it's true. She eats a lot. Always tired. But she says she's fine. Jane, the woman said gently. When last did you see your period? Jane hesitated. A few months ago, she whispered. I don't really understand what's going on. The woman gave her a long look. You need to tell your mother I want to see her. Please, tell her I said it's important. Can you do that for me? Jane nodded slowly, tears welling in her eyes. Jane returned home for the short break, with her heart pounding in her chest. The words of her friend's mother echoed in her ears the entire journey. Tell your mom I want to speak to her. How would she even begin that conversation? She was barely in the house for an hour before her mother sensed something was off. Jane looked different, not physically, but emotionally. She wasn't her usual, helpful, lively self. She didn't rush to sweep, to cook, or to ask if her father had eaten. She simply greeted them quietly and sat in a corner. Jane, are you okay? Her mother asked, studying her. Yes, ma, she replied softly. I'm just tired. Her mother narrowed her eyes. Come and help me in the kitchen. Jane obeyed slowly, dragging herself to her feet. As she peeled yam together, her mother turned to her. Mrs. Adebayo said she wants to see me. She said it's important. What's going on? Jane looked down, her hands trembling slightly. I don't know, ma. Maybe she wants to talk to you about something. Her mother didn't press further, but later that evening she visited Mrs. Adebayo. By the time she returned, everything changed. Jane, her mother's voice thundered as she stormed into the house. What is this I'm hearing? Jane came out slowly from her room, her hands shaking. Stand here, look at me. What is going on with you? Mommy, I don't know. Slap. The force of the slap sent Jane sideways. Her siblings ran into the room in shock. Jesus, her younger brother whispered. You don't know, her mother shouted. Mrs. Adebayo said you haven't seen your period in months, that you've added weight, that you look pregnant. Jane, are you mad? Is this what you went to school to do? Mommy, please listen to me. I don't know how. I don't understand. I never. Another slap. Don't lie to me, Jane. Don't you dare lie to me. You of all people, after all the trust we gave you, you that we used to boast about in church. By now their father had come in, eyes cold and disappointed. Jane, he said, his voice low and heavy, if what your mother is saying is true, if you're pregnant, you have destroyed this family's name. Jane fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Daddy, I swear, I don't know what happened to me. I swear on my life, I have never been with any man. I don't know how this happened. Her father didn't respond. He turned and walked out. Her mother stood above her, fists clenched. We gave you everything. We trusted you. We called you the light of this home. You've disgraced us. That night, Jane didn't sleep. She lay on the floor of her room, sobbing into her pillow. Her siblings avoided her. No one spoke to her. The next morning, her mother dragged her to a small private clinic for confirmation. The nurse came out, her face unreadable. She whispered something to Jane's mother. 6 months gone, the woman said. Jane's mother froze in disbelief. 6 words? She asked, almost choking on her words. The nurse nodded quietly. She's already in her 3rd trimester. There's nothing anyone can do at this point. Her mother stood still, swaying slightly on her feet. Then she let out a long, shaky sigh. God, what did I do wrong? As they walked out, her mother leaned into Jane and kissed. If this pregnancy had been discovered earlier, I would have gotten rid of it on my own. Now you will give birth, and may God judge whoever put us through this shame. Returning home from the clinic, Jane felt numb. Her mother didn't speak to her again. That day, her father avoided eye contact. Her siblings watched her with a mix of confusion and fear. The house, once filled with love and laughter, now felt like a prison. Every word echoed the disappointment in their eyes. Her mother didn't allow her to go out. Let no neighbor see you in this condition, she warned. Until you drop that bastard, you will stay inside this house. Jane stayed in her room most days, curled in a blanket, crying into her pillow. Sometimes she would sing softly, broken versions of worship songs she used to lead at church. She felt forgotten by God, lost, dirty. The rumors had already started. Someone must have seen her at the clinic or perhaps whispered to a neighbor. Calls began pouring in. Is it true? One of her choir mates messaged. Jane, I heard something. Please say it's not what I'm thinking. Her friend's mother must have told someone too, even though she meant well. And from there it spread like wildfire. Her former roommates began to call, the ones who had once teased her. Virgin Mary, Bola mocked over the phone. You do pass us, Abi, so now you carry Bele now. Jane ended the call, her fingers trembling. One afternoon, while walking to the backyard to throw out some tracks, she overheard her neighbors whispering. Can you imagine? That girl Jane, pregnant. And we all thought she was the second Jesus. You see why all these good girls can't be trusted? Jane turned back immediately, entered the house and broke down in tears. She didn't know what hurt more, the whispers or the silence from her family. She kept praying, kept begging God for answers. What happened to me? Who did this? How? Days turned into weeks. One morning, after yet another call from someone who mocked her, Jane snapped. She walked out of the house without saying a word and headed straight towards the bridge near their estate. Her mind was blank. Her soul was heavy. She stood at the edge, staring into the water below. Maybe it would be easier if I just disappeared. Maybe then they'll believe I didn't lie. Maybe then I'd find peace. She closed her eyes. The wind blew against her face. She took a step forward. "Excuse me," a voice called out. A hand grabbed her from behind, pulling her back. Then another. Two strangers, a man and a woman, surrounded her, talking to her gently. "What are you doing here, young lady?" I just want to go. I want it to stop." They helped her sit. The woman, who introduced herself as a counselor working with a nearby NGO, held Jane's hand. "You're not alone," she said. "Let's talk." The counselor didn't push her. She just sat there beside Jane on the concrete slab near the bridge, rubbing her back and waiting for the trembling girl to calm down. After a while, Jane managed to whisper, "I didn't do anything. I swear I didn't. I don't know how I got pregnant." "I believe you," the woman said gently, "but you have to help me understand. Can you tell me everything you remember from the day things started feeling different?" So Jane spoke for the first time. She let it all out. From the cultural day to the moment she blacked out and the confusion where she woke up dressed in a wrapper, feeling sore and weak. As she spoke, the counselor listened carefully, her eyes never leaving Jane's face. "You said you took a drink," the counselor said. "Yes. They said it was palm juice, but it tasted bitter. I only had a little, then everything got blurry." "Did you ever confront your roommate?" Jane shook her head. "I asked Simi why I was wearing a wrapper. She said I was sweating and uncomfortable, and I vomited so much, so she changed me. But I don't remember anything after she dropped me in the room." "Has she acted differently since that day?" Jane paused. "No, but there was a guy who used to disturb me a lot before that day. He kept asking me out. After cultural day, he stopped. He never came near me again." The counselor leaned forward. "Do you know his name?" She nodded slowly. "Femi." The woman reached into her bag and handed Jane a small bottle of water. "I'm not saying we'll confront anyone yet, but you might have been drugged, Jane. You might have been raped." She stared at her, the words landing like brick on her chest. "Raped?" "I didn't want to believe it," she whispered. "But when I woke up, I felt pain. I just ignored it." The counselor nodded, understanding. "It happens more often than people know. Most victims don't remember, but I believe you. I will talk to your parents, but more importantly, I want to help you heal." Jane's tears returned, not just from pain, but from relief. Someone finally believed her. For the first time since this chaos began, she felt a flicker of hope. That evening, the counselor visited Jane's home with her, sat her parents down, and explained everything with calm authority. She was drugged. She wasn't promiscuous. She was violated. The counselor said. Her parents sat in stunned silence. "You knew your daughter," she continued. "She has always been disciplined. You bragged about her. And now, when she needed you the most, you beat her, you cursed her, and nearly pushed her to death. What if she had jumped? What story would you tell then?" Jane's mother burst into tears. Her father held his head in shame. Jane sat quietly watching them, her face stained with tears. She wasn't angry, just tired. That night, her mother came to her room and knelt beside her. "I'm sorry, Jane. I'm so sorry." Jane didn't speak. She just closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, she felt sleep come softly. Jane stayed home, trying to piece her life together. After everything that happened, the judgment, the rejection, the bridge, she had grown quieter, softer, older in her soul. The house was no longer hostile, but the air still felt heavy sometimes. Her parents were trying, yes, but nothing could erase what had already been said and done. Then, just a week before her classmates were to resume for the second half of their final year, news broke across campus. Strike indefinitely. Jane sat on her bed when her phone buzzed with the announcement. She stared at the screen for a long time, tears slowly welling in her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief. It was as if God himself had heard her whisper. She wouldn't have returned yet, wouldn't have to face the stares, the whispers. She could breathe, she could wait. She still had 2 months left before her expected due date, and now she could go through it in silence, away from the crowd, the lecturers, the rumors. Her routine became simple: sleep, pray, eat, cry sometimes, bake on the day she could. The counselor often visited, bringing her books and encouragement. They would sit in the backyard and talk for hours. "You are stronger than you think," the counselor would often say. Jane would smile weakly. "I'm trying." But nothing could have prepared her for what came next. One evening, just after she had eaten and settled in to rest, the pain started. At first it was mild, with just a cramp. Then it became sharp. So sharp she screamed. Her parents rushed in. Within minutes, she was in the backseat of their car. Her mother cradling her, whispering, "You'll be fine, my daughter. You'll be fine." The hospital lights blurred. The nurses rushed her in. Her legs shook. Her heart raced. Everything happened too fast. She pushed, she cried, she prayed. Then silence. No cries, no calls, no tiny hands, just silence. The nurse approached gently, placing a hand on the mother's shoulders. The cord was wrapped around her neck. "We are sorry she didn't make it." Jane stared at the ceiling, blank, empty, cold. Her mother sobbed beside her. Her father stood in the corner, face buried in his palm. Jane turned to her side and closed her eyes. Her chest burned. Her heart ached in the places she didn't know existed. A part of her had died again. The next day, the counselor visited. She held Jane's hand for a long time without saying a word. Then finally she spoke. "Would you like to keep a sample for DNA? We might need to know who." "No," Jane said softly, cutting her off. "I've given it to God. He saw it all. He knows who did this. I don't need revenge. I just need peace." And for the first time since the nightmare began, she meant it. The weeks after her loss were quiet, heavy, but strangely not as dark as Jade had feared. Something inside her had shifted, not broken, transformed. She stopped asking "why me" and started asking "what now?" Her parents became her biggest support system. Her mother would sit by her side in the evenings, telling her stories from when she was little. Her father took over the kitchen some days, fumbling with recipes just to make her smile. The strike was lifted just a month after her recovery. When Jane returned to school, she walked through the gates with her head high. Some people still whispered, but she no longer flinched. Her pain had matured her. She had nothing left to prove to anyone. She resumed her classes, submitted her projects, and never returned to her baking business. On days when she wasn't in class, she volunteered at a local counseling center, helping other young girls who were going through tough times. One day, after a particularly emotional group section, the counselor looked at her and said, "You've become what I prayed for, a voice for others." Jane smiled. She didn't talk about her story often, but when she did, it wasn't from a place of shame. It was from strength. "God brought me through it," she would say, "and He can bring you through anything." When final exams came, Jane gave them everything she had. The results came in 3 months' time. First class, best graduating student. The same university that once mocked her now celebrated her. On convocation day, the vice chancellor called her name with pride, and the hall erupted in applause. But the true award came the next day, an email with a subject line that made her scream. "Congratulations, you've been awarded a full scholarship to pursue your master's and PhD abroad." She fell to her knees overwhelmed. Before she left the country, she paid one last visit to the counselor, and scared, she admitted, "What if I fail again?" The woman held her hands. "You didn't fail, Jane. You survived, and now you're about to soar." As her flight took off, Jane looked out the window, her heart full. She had been mocked, judged, but she survived. And now she was flying into a future where her scars would shine as strength. Her name would no longer be a name, it would be a testimony. The end. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful masterpiece. Please go ahead and leave in a comment what you learned about this story, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, my loves, bye. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us, turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story, like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye.